Dr. Peter Grinspoon here, talking about cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, or CHS. Why is it that people throw up when they use cannabis? Cannabis is well known to help people with nausea and vomiting, to help prevent it, especially people in chemotherapy. I saw this with my brother Danny when he was suffering from leukemia as a kid. But in fact, cannabis can make you vomit. And there are several different ways. One is greening out or taking too much. If you take an overdose, like an edible that's too strong for you. I was with someone who ate too much cookie batter and she was barfing for hours. But cannabis hyperemesis syndrome is something more chronic. It's a chronic condition where you often find yourself in the hospital vomiting uncontrollably once or twice a month. Even the medications they give you in the ER don't really help. They say the things that help are like a hot shower, but it's very difficult to control cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. It's hard to diagnose and to distinguish from something else called cyclic vomiting syndrome, which looks exactly the same. The only way to diagnose cannabis hyperemesis syndrome is to stop using cannabis for 3 to 6 months. And if the symptoms persist without the cannabis, then it's cyclic vomiting. If the symptoms go away, then you had cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. Some people have a theory that it's a certain pesticide that causes cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, but there's really no evidence for that, and they really do screen for many of the pesticides in illegal states, and we still have plenty of cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, or CHS, hard to pronounce. So if you find yourself vomiting when you're using cannabis regularly and often ending up in the ER, you have to stop for 3 to 6 months. And if you have trouble doing that, help is available. And if you do get diagnosed with cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, you certainly could experiment with using low doses of THC or infrequently using cannabis, like really vastly changing how you use cannabis. But if the symptoms persist, it's very miserable ending up in the hospital. You might just have to quit cannabis altogether. Thanks for listening.